Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, good afternoon. Uh, it's a pleasure to be speaking on ICT infrastructure and urban development challenges and opportunities. I shall restrict my observations to urban poverty elevation. Before I go into details, let me tell you in one-liners what actually is urban poverty. About a decade and a half back, I went somewhere and they made us stay in the Hilton. But as we were entering the hotel, there was a shanty outside with cement seats, and that was named as the New Hilton. And they were both in the same urban city. Even in Delhi, if you go around, you will notice tall, long shopping malls, sky-touching skyscrapers, along with every half a mile, a small Lal Dora area with a village. So this is the dimension of the problem, that how will we ever have a smart city where at least in the walking distance it looks smart. I'm not even talking of a driving distance, but at least walking distance it should be all provided for. I am not telling you get rid of the poor, because they as citizens need to be provided for as well. All that I'm suggesting is whatever the tools, whatever the parameters, whatever the resources available, we must plan to have composite, fully provided for cities which look at the larger perspective as far as the country is concerned. Now, poverty elevation by itself has been accepted that it is a challenge to our urban planning and execution. What I am stressing here is it is not unawareness of the problem. We are aware of the problem. For the implementation of growth-oriented plans, especially balanced growth, envisaging bridging the economic divide, information and communication technology, it is accepted, has an all-pervading role to play. You see, what I am trying to suggest over here, that the tardy process of addressing problems from file to file, from man to man, is part of the past era. What is of consequence now is time. In short, time itself is capital. And I would go along the line with some economic analysis, but whenever I am talking of economic analysis, please be with me that what is required is IT must be able to gear up and provide what is the requirement for speeding up poverty elevation in cities, so that we have what we call smart cities. Proper project planning, that is project appraisal, project management, project monitoring, concepts like accountability, transparency cannot go a step further without the help of information and communication technology. This is well understood, well accepted. What I am suggesting is there is a direct trade-off between growth and information and communication technology. For a starter, I feel that placing information on the websites and right of information also on the website are very important tools. This would eliminate the need of physical interaction, which is not only time consuming but also emotional, along with the fact that all interactions in which the human element figures are tardy in more than one ways. The essence again remains on time as a factor of production. For creating an ideal smart city, the roadmap needs to be clearly defined, and I think the two basic ingredients of this roadmap are: you must have a city with integrated infrastructure. You must have a city which should be fully, reliably, and completely E-enabled. Some of the E-enabled concepts that need to be put in place are monitoring, proactive information, disclosure through a website, fixing accountability, social cost-benefit analysis, eventually leading to a social audit, both at the implementation stage and eventually culminating into a ex-post analysis, that is, lessons after you have been able to complete a project, which will help us continue similar projects elsewhere. It is necessary to put to use e-governance for building smart cities, and for this the following measures need to be undertaken. Online delivery of government to citizen services, real-time information on a number of government-to-government and government-to-citizen processes, management of information in decision-making, use of global information system and global positioning system, which will enhance the mode of working of the existing urban local bodies. Now, after having told you the dimension of the problem, let me at least target and share with you that what is urban poverty in this country. Let me take the help of a study done by the World Bank, wherein the organization describes urban poverty as a multidimensional problem. It adds that issues for resolving this multidimensional problem need awareness in the following domain. First, urban poverty arises because the way our cities are growing, the way population is increasing, at the end of the day, there is limited access to employment opportunities and income. What I am suggesting here that it is not necessary that if we have 7.9% rate of growth, and which is accentuated towards the urban sector, the poorest of the poor will also benefit out of it. It won't. Actually, it is very surprising that with the growth of the GDP, we quite often overlook that it is not being equally distributed. The second problem, as far as poverty elevation is concerned, is inadequate and insecure housing and services. Because of these handicaps, emerges a problem in the urban poverty segment area of violence and unhealthy environments. And the worst part is that in urban cities, the growing urban cities in our country, we have no social protection mechanism whatsoever. What is worse is that at the rate our cities are growing, there is not adequate access to health and educational opportunities for the poor. So after having told you the dimension of the property, let me add a word here that it is important that planners, people dealing with e-governance should be clear that urban poverty is a dynamic condition, and that dynamic condition deals, or that dynamic condition is superimposed by both vulnerability and susceptibility to risks. These factor needs attention. Now, what is urban poverty? In short, urban poverty has 5 dimensions. You can stop me wherever you think that I am talking of too much economics, which doesn't gel well with you. But I'm trying to make it as simple as possible, because whatever you devise, whichever tool you use, please remember that till you do not know the malady, you may not be able to prescribe, and you will not be able to adapt the best possible tool. Now, as I said, poverty has discretely, analytically 5 dimensions. First, there is income poverty. Then there is health and education poverty. Then there is tenure. By tenure, I limit myself to housing. There is tenure and personal insecurity. And the worst part is the poor are the victim of disempowerment. I'll just briefly income poverty is caused by dependence on cash, and poor people don't have cash. It is a sector where unemployment is pronounced. It is a sector where lack of skills or existence of unskilled labor is the predominant malice. All this leads to bad health, inhibiting regular employment. What I'm suggesting is all these factors exist in the urban poor, which eventually leads to a vicious circle of poverty. They can't be educated, they are not healthy. With the result, they will remain poor, and you will have these segments existing in your best cities. Health, the second nature of poverty, gets affected by the very fact that the poor live in unhealthy circumstances. Overcrowding and unhygienic living conditions get further pronounced if you consider that the poor in urban areas always stay on marginal lands. They do not have proper lands, they do not have proper housing, with the result that the urban poor are prone to environmental hazards like landslides, floods, disease, etc. Further, they suffer because of staying in marginal lands with issues like poor sanitation, quality of water, unsafe working conditions, which again is a vicious circle. The third kind of urban poverty is lack of education, which is largely because there aren't enough schools, and if there are schools, the poor cannot afford to make use of them. Security of tenure. Security of tenure basically means that they are not authorized demarcated areas which are affordable, wherein the poor can go and stay. What actually happens in practice is, in urban areas, most of the poor go and build shanties in either public or private land, which is quite insecure. Because they go and make homes in marginal lands, there is neither proper construction nor safety in these homes. All this actually leads to personal insecurity of the urban poor. When I talk of personal insecurity, what I am referring to is drug abuse, alcohol abuse, domestic violence, family breakdown, no real-time support to the children. And finally, we have to empower the urban poor. They must have proper access to jobs where they are existing. There must be proper training for them so that skills can be imparted. Now this is what I have told you is the dimension of urban poverty, and till you do not deal with urban poverty, you cannot have good cities. Unfortunately, till now, the focus has been on rural poverty. But one must remember that the bigger cities in India are growing faster than smaller towns. Such cities have the highest percentage of slum dwellers. If there are as many urban poor living outside of slums as they are living in slums, the focus on poverty alleviation will need to differ, not only limited to upgrading slums, but also providing proper skills to all the urban poor so that they can be gainfully employed. We need to understand the process of urbanization in relation to economic growth and migration. Migration is a very big problem as far as urban poor and growth rates are concerned. India currently has mainly a rural population, but its population in urban areas is growing faster than rural areas. And according to projections, by 2030, nearly 50% of India's population will be urban. In short, the urban poverty, by all estimates, is only going to grow and get worse. And with all that is in place, there is no relief being provided. In our country, as you are all aware, we define urban poverty in calorie intake. According to I just give you a little flavor of figures. According to the Planning Commission, the urban poor were 7.5 crores, which comprised 38% of total urban population in 1988. By 1995, although the figure from 7.5 only went to 7.7, but it is a growing figure. What you need to consider here is that despite everything we are doing, urban poor are also increasing. And there is a very well accepted statement that poverty anywhere is a threat to prosperity everywhere. As far as urban poverty is concerned, experts emphasize that empowerment approach is healthier than the delivery approach as far as elevation of poverty is concerned. The delivery approach treats the beneficiaries as mere recipients and not subjects of change. The implementation methodology or the empowerment methodology is more pragmatic, and it can mitigate more than just economic poverty by involving the community in a genuine manner and addressing the issue of low self-esteem. Low self-esteem by itself in a human being is a very worrisome phenomenon. As programs and economic activity grow, one needs to target the fact that the urban poor should be accepted as legitimate citizens and not objects of charity. So now, ladies and gentlemen, it remains for you to integrate the economic issues. The malady I have tried to share with you in 4 or 5 different ways. How can best e-governance, how can best the information and communication technology make life, income, the existence of a proper infrastructure for the urban poor so that they are not destitutes. They are also partners in the growth, in the development of cities. Thank you.